vehicle inspection. The keys are in my pocket and the brakes are set. First, I'm going to start with the front of the vehicle. Start from the top down, inside out. Top of the vehicle has 5 amber in color marker lights. They're not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. My windshield is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, broken, or damaged. I have 2 windshield wipers that are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, broken, or damaged. I'm going to work my way down. I have on this vehicle 4 amber in color marker lights. They're not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. I have 2 clear in color headlights, not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. The truck is not listing left or right, which would indicate a suspension issue, and there are no puddles underneath it, which might indicate a leak issue. We'll now pop the hood, and I will start with the passenger side with any unique items. On the passenger side of this vehicle, I will start again, top down, inside out. Top, first I have my coolant reservoir, which is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured and not leaking. It is at the proper operating level. My coolant reservoir would lead me down to the water pump. The water pump is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and is belt driven. The belt does not have more than 3/4 inch of play, and the water pump is not leaking. Then I would lead into my exhaust. My exhaust system is not cracked, broken, or damaged. It's properly mounted and secured and has no soot trails, which might indicate that it would be leaking. Now I'm going to go to the other side of the vehicle, the driver's side, which I'll continue on for most of the rest of this inspection. On the driver's side of this vehicle, again, top down, inside out. All my hoses and lines on this engine compartment are not cracked, broken, or damaged, appear to be properly mounted and secured and not leaking. First thing I come to is my alternator. My alternator is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. It is belt driven. The belt cannot have more than 3/4 inch of play. It also has electrical wires going to it. The electrical wires are not frayed, cracked, damaged, or broken, and properly mounted and secured. Then I come to the power steering reservoir. The power steering reservoir is at proper operating level. It's not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and not leaking. The hoses going from the power steering reservoir are not cracked, broken, or damaged, or leaking. And they go to the power steering pump. The power steering pump is mounted on the rear of this engine. It is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and gear driven. It is also not leaking. Behind that, I also have my air compressor. My air compressor for this engine is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and not leaking. It is also gear driven. In the middle here, I have my dipstick. The oil dipstick is not cracked, broken, or damaged. It's properly mounted and secured and is not leaking. I would pull it out, wipe it off, reinsert it, pull it back out, and make sure it's at proper operating level. Next, I'm going to go with my steering components. My steering column is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and is properly greased. My steering box is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and is not leaking. All the hoses and lines coming out of it are also properly mounted and secured and not leaking. My 3-component steering linkage, my pitman arm, my drag link, and my upper control arm or steering knuckle are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured to each other with a pin and a cotter key and a castellated nut at joints. Next, I'm going to go back onto the frame. The frame is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and there are no illegal welds or holes larger than 3/4 inch that do not have a bolt in them. From the frame, I'm going to go to my front and rear spring hangers. My front and rear spring hangers are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and properly greased if needed. Then I'm going to take and look at my springs. My springs are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and are not scissoring or misaligned. My U-bolts are properly mounted and secured, and there's no shiny metal, which would indicate a sign of looseness. My shock absorber is properly mounted and secured, both top and bottom, and is not leaking. From there, I'm going to go into my braking system. My brake lines are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and not leaking. My brake can is properly mounted and secured with a belly band, and it is not cracked, broken, or damaged, or leaking. My slack adjuster and push rod are properly secured to each other with a pin and a cotter key, and are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. There is no more than 1 inch of play with the brakes released on my push rod. The inside of the tires, my drums and linings are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and they're not excessively worn. Now to my tires and rims. My inside and my outside of my tire, there are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. It is evenly worn. There's a minimum of 4/32 of tread depth on the front steer tires. My rims itself are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and there's no illegal welds. My lug nuts are all present, not cracked, broken, or damaged, and there's no shiny metal or rust trails would indicate that they were loose. My axle or hub seal in this case is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. It's at proper operating level and it's not leaking. I would check my valve stem. My valve stem is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, broken, or damaged, and has a cap. I would use an air pressure gauge to make sure that this tire is at proper operating pressure. Now I'm going to continue on to the side of the vehicle. First thing I come to, my mirrors are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, broken, or damaged. My door opens and closes freely and has weather stripping. Then I'm going to come down here to my steps and my catwalk. They are all properly mounted and secured, not cracked, broken, or damaged, and free of debris. My fuel tanks are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured with belly straps with rubberized gaskets. I also have a fuel cap, which is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. It has a safety chain and a rubberized gasket. It is also not leaking. The fuel tank is also not leaking. Now I'll come to the rear of my cab. It's not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted. Everything appears to be properly mounted and secured. My windshield, my rear windows are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. And I have reflectors, which are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. I also have a white work light, which is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. Next, I'm going to go into my air and electrical lines, going from the truck to the trailer. The electrical lines both have safety latches on both ends. They're not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. My air lines are hard mounted to the truck and glad hands to the trailer. They're not cracked, broken, or damaged, or leaking. They appear to be properly mounted and secured. In the middle here, I have my drive shaft. My drive shaft is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. It is not bent and appears to be properly greased. From there, I'm going to go into the rear suspension on this vehicle. This vehicle has airbags, so I'm going to start with the front spring hanger. It is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. Then I'm going to go to the spring. The spring is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. It is a single spring, so it doesn't have to apply to be scissoring, but it is not cracked, broken, or damaged, and is properly secured with U-bolts. The U-bolts are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and there are no shiny metal which indicate a sign of looseness. Directly behind the U-bolts are the shock absorbers. The shock absorbers are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, properly mounted top and bottom, and they are not leaking. The airbags are directly behind those. The airbags are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and are also not leaking. Now I'm going to go into my braking system. My braking system starts out with my brake line. My brake lines are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and not leaking. That leads me into my brake cans. My brake cans are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and have belly bands, which are also not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and my brake cans are not leaking. Behind my brake cans are my slack adjuster and my push rod, which are properly mounted and secured to each other with both pins and cotter keys. The slack adjuster and push rods are properly mounted and secured and not cracked, damaged, or broken. Then there is no more than 1 inch of play with my push rods. Going from there into my drums and linings. My drums and linings are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted, secured, and not excessively worn. Now, onto my tires. These are rear dually tires. Inside, outside are not cracked, broken, or damaged. There are no abrasions, bulges, and cuts. The space between the tires, or the bud spacing, is free of debris, and there are no air gaps between the rims, indicating they might be loose. My exterior rims are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and there's no illegal welds. My lug nuts are all present, not cracked, broken, or damaged, and there's no shiny metal that might indicate a looseness or rust trails. My axle seal is not cracked, broken, or damaged, appears to be properly mounted and secured, and is not leaking. My valve stem on both tires are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured with a cap. They are also not leaking. I would use an air pressure gauge to check both tires to make sure they are at proper operating pressure. Both tires are evenly worn, and there's a minimum of 2 30-seconds of tread depth on the rear drive tires. Now, we're going to go on to the rear of the vehicle. The very rear end of the vehicle, I have our splash guards, or mud flaps in this case, you can call it either way, are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. There is DOT reflective tape on them, which is also not cracked, broken, or damaged, and properly mounted and secured. I have 2 red lights on the rear of this vehicle that are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and 2 white lights, my reverse light and my license plate light, which are both clear in color and properly mounted and secured. From there, I'm going to go into the coupling and uncoupling system of the truck. Also, I'm checking to make sure my cross member is not cracked, broken, or damaged, and properly mounted and secured on the truck. Then I'm going to go into the apron. The apron on this trailer is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. Then comes to the skid plate on the truck. The skid plate is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. There is proper grease between the apron and the skid plate, and there is no gap. Inside the skid plate is the locking jaw and the kingpin. The locking jaw is fully locked around the kingpin, and neither one is cracked, broken, or damaged, and they both appear to be properly mounted and secured. From there, I have my pivot pin. My pivot pin is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, broken, or damaged, has a pin and a cotter key holding it in place. My safety release arm is properly mounted and secured and properly stowed for travel. It does not appear to be cracked, broken, or damaged. From there, I have my sliding fifth wheel mount. My mount is properly secured with all the bolts present, not cracked, broken, or damaged. Then it has locking pins for the sliding fifth wheel, which are fully stowed and for travel and don't appear to be cracked, broken, or damaged. Now I'm going to go into the trailer. The trailer itself. The front of the trailer is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. There are no excessive missing rivets. On the top of the trailer, I have 2 amber in color marker lights, which are not cracked, broken, or damaged and appear to be properly mounted and secured. I have my air and electrical connections on the trailer that are not cracked, broken, or damaged, appear to be properly mounted and secured. From that, I'm going to the side of my trailer. The side of my trailer is properly mounted and secured. Everything seems to be not cracked, broken, or damaged. There are no excessive missing rivets. I have 100% a minimum of 50% DOT reflective tape on the side of my trailer. It doesn't appear to be cracked, broken, or damaged. My landing gear is properly mounted and secured. It is fully retracted for travel, and the crank handle, is properly stowed for travel. There is also a proper gap between the truck and the landing gear. Now, the frames or cross members on my trailer are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. I also have no holes in the floor of the trailer, which is also properly mounted and secured. Then I'm going to go into the suspension on the rear of this trailer. This trailer has airbag suspension. So, first, I have my front mounting bolts on my torsion bars, which are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. Then I'm going to go ahead and continue on with the suspension. There are shocks. The shock absorbers on this trailer are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. I also have airbags, which are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and neither of which are leaking. My U-bolts holding the axle are not cracked, broken, or damaged, and there's no shiny metal which indicate it might be loose. From there, now I'm going to go into my brake cans and lines. First, my brake lines are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and not leaking. Then I go into my brake cans. My brake cans have belly bands present. They're not cracked, broken, or damaged, and properly mounted and secured. They're also not leaking. My slack adjuster and push rods are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, broken, or damaged, and they have a pin and a cotter key holding them in place. There is no more than 1 inch of play with the brakes released on my push rod. Then I'm going to go into my dual tires. I'm going to go into my drums and linings. They're not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and not excessively worn. Now, I'm going to go into my tires. The inside, outside of my tires are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. They're evenly worn, and there's a minimum of 2/32 of tread depth. My bud spacing between these tires is free of debris, and there's no air gap between the rims. The rims themselves are not cracked, broken, or damaged, and there's no illegal welds. They're properly mounted and secured with all the lug nuts present, and there's no shiny metal or rust trails that would indicate that they might be loose. Then I go into my axle seal. The axle seal, or hub seal in this case, is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and is not leaking. From there, on this trailer, it is equipped with ABS, so I have an ABS light, which is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and amber in color. My mud flaps are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, broken, or damaged. I have 2 red in color side marker lights in the rear of this trailer, which are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. The rear of the vehicle, starting from the top down, I have 5 red in color marker lights, not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. Then I have my door. The door is properly stowed for travel and doesn't appear to be cracked, broken, or damaged. I have 100% DOT reflective tape on the rear of this vehicle. My lights, I have 4 more lights on the rear of this vehicle, which are red in color, not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. Also have 2 red reflectors, which are not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured, and a clear license plate light, which is not cracked, broken, or damaged, properly mounted and secured. This vehicle is equipped with a lift gate, which is properly stowed for travel with a safety chain in place. Now, unique items on the side of this vehicle would only be the stack. The exhaust stack is up here in the front. The exhaust stack on this vehicle is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, broken, or damaged, and there's no soot trails which would indicate a sign of leaks. Now, if you would, I will complete an in-cab vehicle inspection and an exterior vehicle light check. And I'll have you step outside the vehicle and help me with that light check. I will secure the hood with both latches. And I'll take that from you. Now I'm going to go inside the vehicle and I'll complete an exterior vehicle light check and an in-cab vehicle inspection. Roll my window down and not starting my engine. My lights are on. I will start with my left blinker, my right blinker, okay, my high beams, low beams, okay, and then my 4-way hazards. If you would, please step to the rear of the vehicle, checking all my marker lights on the way back. My left blinker, my right blinker, my 4-way hazards, and my brake lights. Okay, please come in the cab and I'll complete an in-cab vehicle inspection. I'll have my examiner come in the cab with me. He'll close the cab. And then we'll do an in-cab vehicle inspection. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is seatbelt and safe start. I'm going to take my seatbelt, I'll put it on, making sure it's not cracked, frayed, or broken, and then it properly latches and unlatches. Okay, then I'm going to do a safe start on the vehicle. Brakes are set, vehicle is in neutral. Release the clutch, and safe start on the vehicle. While I'm waiting for my gauges to come up here, I'm going to go ahead and do my interior vehicle light check. All the lights on the dash went on and off for emergency purposes. And now I'm going to check my right blinker, my left blinker dash light, my high beam indicator, and my low beam indicator, and my 4-way hazards. All my gauges are up and functioning now. So I'm going to start with my oil pressure. My oil pressure is showing that it is operating at proper level. The water pressure is starting to rise. My voltmeter is showing 14 volts and it is charging. My fuel pressure, the fuel is at proper operating level, and then both my air pressure gauges are at proper operating level. Now I'm going to look around the cab, starting with my horns. My city and my highway horn properly function. Then I'm going to start with my mirrors, which are properly adjusted for me, not cracked, broken, or damaged, and my windshield is not cracked, broken, or damaged, appears to be properly functioning. And I'm going to start my windshield wipers and my washers, which are functioning properly. Working my way over, I'm going to turn on my heater and defroster, turn it up to high, and it is moving air, top and bottom. For these purposes, I'll go ahead and shut that off. Now, in here, I've got my red triangles, my 3 reflective triangles, my fully charged 10-pound fire extinguisher, and in that box over there, I've got my minimum of 6 fuses. Now, I'm on flat level of ground. I'm going to go ahead and start my brake test. I'll turn my vehicle off, ignition in the on position, and I'm going to release both my brakes. I'll let the air settle. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply hard, steady pressure for 1 minute, and I cannot lose more than 4 psi of pressure in 1 minute with the applied pressure test. Hard, steady pressure. Once my pressure settles, now I'm going to time for 1 minute. You can either count out loud, or I can ask my examiner to count it, or I would use a watch, but it must go more than 60 seconds to be a legitimate test. So, for simulation purposes, it's been 1 minute. Now, what we're going to do is the next step to the brake test is I'm going to pump down my air pressure, and at or before 60 psi, I should get my low air pressure warning audible visual alarm to come on. And I will continue to pump down. And at or before 60 psi, my audible and visual alarm came on. The next thing that's going to happen is between 20 and 45 psi, both my buttons, my spring brakes, need to pop. And they did. Between 20 and 45, both my buttons have popped. Now I'm going to do another safe start on the vehicle. Vehicle's at neutral. My brakes are now set. Clutch is in. Start the vehicle. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm listening for governor cutout. At about 120 psi, I should get my governor cut out. Look at that air release noise. I'm going to build air pressure. I'm going to high idle just slightly. Just let it do it just a little bit quicker. Roll down my window just slightly so I can hear it effectively. Air governor cut out at exactly 120 psi. Now, I'm going to complete my vehicle inspection by doing my tug tests on both my parking brake, of my truck, and on my trailer. So, first, I'm going to release my trailer brakes. I'm going to go ahead and put it into first or second gear. This first gear here, just slightly tug until I feel it pull against my brakes. Okay. My parking brakes on my trailer are properly working. Now I'm going to switch to them opposite. Now I'm checking them make sure that my trailer brakes are pulling hard and my truck brakes are released. Okay, the trailer brakes are holding and my truck brakes are released. Now, I'm going to take and release both buttons. And now, I'm going to check my service brakes. Need to pull forward about 5 miles an hour or about 15 feet. Speed up. Clutch in. My steering wheel didn't pull left or right. My service brakes are functioning properly. Nothing is out of adjustment. If my vehicle had pulled left or right, I would have known that there was a possible adjustment issue on my brakes. And that concludes my pre-trip inspection.